Welcome to Barbecue My Way. We are making cheesy broccoli rice casserole today with some leftover chicken. So let's get started. Start with some fresh broccoli, and this is broccoli whole stalk, but we mainly went with broccoli florets, and so we're just going to kind of cut these into littler bite-sized pieces. Then I'm going to throw them in some water that I already have over there simmering.
So what makes this casserole a little different than maybe, something's ready.
I've got the oven preheating to 350, so that's what you heard. This casserole recipe, we're going to use, make it with a roux instead of canned soup, which, a lot of people use canned soups, which is fine. We just like to make our own roux because you can really adjust, the flavor is better. You can put in as much salt as you want or as little salt as you want. And it doesn't have preservatives. It's more natural. So, and to me, it's just as easy to make a roux. Really, it's not that tough. So I'll show you how, and you'll see that it's really pretty simple. Okay, our water's been boiling here for just a minute, and we're going to throw the broccoli in. We're not going to put it in there for very long because it will cook in the casserole, and you don't want it mushy. So we're just going to kind of parboil it for maybe 3 minutes. And then over here on the stove I have some white rice. This is jasmine rice. It's just what I had on hand. I also had brown rice, but we're actually taking this to a friend who's not feeling well. So I think most people prefer the white. For me, I felt like maybe that was a safer bet, but my family likes the brown. So you just do whichever rice you prefer and whatever your family prefers. We're just gonna fluff that up a little. And just look on your rice package recipe. Each one is a little bit different as far as time goes. But we prefer this to the instant rice. We like the texture of the whole rice. Really still a bright green, and it's been boiling only about 2 minutes. Just enough to give it a start. And I'm just gonna drain it. I'm going to actually use this pan to start my roux. Okay, we're ready for the roux. This is the most important part, I think, of the process, and the part that I'm really excited to show you. I'm going to start with 3 tablespoons of butter.
Please explain that our cast iron is not dirty. That's just
no, it's not dirty. This is just, this is wear. Yeah, no, it's
clean. We should just clarify that.
Oh, people know that.
No, they don't.
I know. Okay, so there's 3 tablespoons of the roux, or the butter, sorry. We're going to melt that down. And to that we're going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. So the trick to a roux is it's equal portions of your fat to your flour. And by fat I mean you could use olive oil or you could use butter. Typically it's butter. So we're going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. And you want to make sure that you have, or that you stir it well and that you cook it down, because you don't want to have a floury taste to your casserole. So it'll take a while, but I want to show you this, so just be patient with this here. I'm going to turn that heat down a little bit because it's bubbling a little too high. There we go. So like a medium heat. And you're just basically cooking that flour to get rid of kind of that floury taste and texture there. So just keep stirring. It should bubble nicely like this. And then once you feel like you've cooked it pretty well, maybe a minute, we're going to add the liquid. And we're using chicken broth for this sauce. So we're going to use 3 cups of chicken broth. And you want to pour this kind of slowly at first and stir pretty rapidly, because you don't want chunks. No chunks, no bumps. So you have to stir and stir, and sometimes you may even need to get a whisk out. Cup number 2. You want to stir pretty rapidly with your whisk. Get those lumps out. And time to stir in cup number 3. That way we can add as much salt as we need. Okay, at this point I'm going to add the pepper. You can see it's not lumpy at all, so you're good to add whatever flavorings you want to add. Herbs or pepper.
Will it thicken up?
Salt's going to thicken a lot as it cooks. So I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit, maybe to medium-high. And then I'm going to add some marjoram. Marjoram is a nice spice to mix, or herb to mix with broccoli. It's pretty mild. About a teaspoon. And then I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to taste that and see if we need to add more later. And I'm going to start with that. And then quite a few grindings of black pepper. Because rice and chicken and cheese and pepper are awesome together. And then just whisk that in. Once it starts to bubble just a little bit on the edges, you know you're getting close to it starting to thicken. All right, you can tell now it's become thick, not soupy thick like, you know, canned soup thick, but it's definitely thicker than it was. Nice bubbles are going. I'm going to add now cheese, and you can add about a cup of whatever cheese you have. We really like cheddar, but Gouda is what we're using today, which I think is going to be amazing actually. So we're going to stir this in. If it gets too stringy, if you have a stringier cheese, you can add a little bit of acid like a lemon juice and sprinkle that on your cheese first, and that will help it from getting real gooey and sticky and stringy, but Gouda should melt in here really, really nicely. I'm going to turn my heat off. Okay, and then we're going to just kind of watch it melt into our thickened soup mixture, or thickened roux, I mean. Okay, it's time to add our chicken and our broccoli and our rice. This is our cooled broccoli. And remember, this looks pretty soupy, but rice is going to really soak up a lot of that moisture. So I want it pretty soupy. I don't like a dry chicken rice casserole. So we're going to add now our shredded chicken. This was our leftover chicken that Dave put on the grill the other night. And that was about, what did you say, Dave? 3.5 cups maybe?
3 cups, 3.5, yeah.
Yeah, and then this is our rice. We want about, I made about 3 cups of rice. Might be just a little over, so I'm gonna see how it looks here. Can add more if I want. The nice thing about a casserole, you don't have to be totally exact. You know, if you have a little less chicken, a little more vegetable, just whatever looks good to you. We have a lot of nice chicken in there. So to me, looks like we could add maybe just a little more rice. What do you think, Dave? I don't know. Soaked it all up pretty well.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. So you can see what I mean. You didn't want that sauce to get too thick, because then that rice will soak it all up and it won't be nice and creamy. So this will be nice and creamy. All right, we have a prepared casserole pan over here, and I've just greased up a little bit. Grated Parmesan that we're going to sprinkle on top of here. We would normally use like a panko, buttery panko topping or something like that, but the person we're making this for cannot eat flour, so I think this will be a nice addition. And the Gouda cheese is a little bit less, I guess, sharp than cheddar, so that also will help add a little flavor to the top. We're gonna stick this in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes till it's bubbly, and we're ready to go. Okay, here we go. I put it on broil for just the last few minutes, so it'll get a little bit brown on top. It's really nice and bubbly. And that is chicken rice casserole.
Okay, so you did it at 350, but then what'd you do?
I said I broiled it for the last few minutes.
Okay.
That's why I was taking out. You didn't hear me?
Guess not.